Final Fantasy XVI did not make it easy for itself. It only came out shortly after the other fantasy giants, Tears of the Kingdom and Diablo IV, which broke all records, while Final Fantasy still carried the baggage from its controversial predecessors 13 and 15. And there was skepticism among fans, because FF16 turned its role-playing roots into an action game. Even during its turn-based origins, Final Fantasy was known for not only always changing up its setting, but also pushing gameplay in new directions like few other brands. But real-time spectacle, seemingly like Devil May Cry, went too far for some people. So much so that the game was bombarded with bad user reviews after launch. Real-time action is nothing new in the genre, despite its turn-based roots. Action role-playing games have slowly become the majority. However, Final Fantasy XVI really does feel even closer to games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta on the surface. Not last because developers of both series had involvement with the game. Protagonist Clive no longer has any controllable party members, and instead of planning out battles and customizing character stats, as was typical for good Japanese role-playing games, this game now asked for reflexes. Although equipment can be improved with various stats, skills are geared towards action. Dodges, double jumps, teleport and combos count, not deep tactics. As long as the action works, and it doesn't have to mean the end for a JRPG. After all, part of role-playing games, besides character customization and planning, is the feeling of exploring strange worlds on your own initiative. Sadly, FF16 is the opposite. And here, the weak role-playing nature is much more noticeable. Because all quests are a consistent, banal running of icons and checklists. And sorry, I cannot stand this design anymore. Of course, in games with huge budgets, publishers want no one to be frustrated, but FF16 is a case where everything is spoon-fed so drastically, any kind of thinking can be put to rest. The battles are more action than tactics, but at least they are gameplay. The questing in Final Fantasy XVI is nothing. Exploring away from the icons is rarely rewarded. Side quests and many filler quests in the main story are pure hold stick towards icon. Minimal deviations like the hunting board are not worth mentioning in the big picture. Almost all tasks that involve exploring, interacting with characters, getting to know the world, so actual role-playing elements, are degraded to mere GPS icon running. Even the dungeons are straight running and endless slaughter. Optional branches, like in the equally linear Final Fantasy VII Remake, or gimmicks there, like sabotaging the Airbuster boss, are non-existent in 16. And yet, here's the thing, it's the dungeons that are very much highlights. And that's when it hit me. Final Fantasy XVI isn't a role-playing game anyway, but it's not a clone of Devil May Cry or God of War either. After all, those have exploration, puzzles and other deviations, and quite frankly much deeper combat systems. No, Final Fantasy XVI is like a classic beat-em-up. So like the old arcade coin eaters, in which you fight your way through endless crowds of enemies from left to right, with simple combos and a few powerful special attacks. In fact, there used to be a tradition of Dungeons and Dragons style beat-em-ups with a very simple role-playing phase. Graphics and sound were especially important in such games, so that the monotonous brawling would keep you engaged anyway. Final Fantasy XVI is kind of the same, with its linear audiovisual splendor. Not only in raw horsepower, but the art direction of the set pieces is also fantastic. And the music, which ranges from moody to epic, also keeps up and helps to create memorable set pieces. Since FF16 is more of a beat-em-up than a role-playing game, this kind of linear spectacle still very much knows how to entertain. There might be more elegant ways to tell a game story than like here with 10-minute cutscenes, but at least the once again more political story with many mysteries is good enough at punctuating the set pieces. Even more so, because despite the superficial pretense of Game of Thrones fantasy, including blood and swearing for the first time in the series, it's still very much Japanese melodrama with anime super attacks, which makes for many over-the-top showdowns. It's just that Final Fantasy XVI is multiple times as long as such old action games, including story material that might as well be a 2-season Final Fantasy anime. This makes the game ambivalent. It's mostly the filler quests, which are tedious, in which you do nothing but chase after GPS routes and then button mash a few brainless mobs, and where the skip button quickly becomes attractive in the less elaborate cutscenes. The arcade mode sections are the best part of FF16 because that's where the nature of the game lies, and where the game can truly get going. Every time the boss theme starts, so does the hype. In fact, FF16 featured some of the craziest boss fights in quite some time. Not only in terms of spectacle, but that's also where the gameplay is the most sophisticated. For the spectacle alone, the game is quite worth playing, despite all its flaws. When it all comes together, the combos, the music, the story, the fight choreographies, and so on, Final Fantasy XVI can have moments of excellence.